there, but it's simply warm and fine for the vast majority and hardly any cloud at all for much of England and Wales, particularly towards the south. Look at that, temperatures at 6 p.m. still at 24 or 25 degrees, so a very warm evening for April. Now, going into the evening, we're going to see those clear skies continue. But across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the clouds will thicken and we will see some patchy rain into the northwest of Scotland, a few showers further south as well. As the cloud builds in the northwest, it's going to stay relatively mild. Fresher elsewhere, but some spots could experience a relatively warm night for the time of year, and that gets us off to a head start Thursday morning with the temperature rise, and those temperatures will rise quickly across England and Wales through the first day of May. Enough to spark the odd shower or thunderstorm through the Midlands, parts of Wales and the southwest, for example. But away from these, highs of 29 Celsius in the south, feeling much cooler, though, further north.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom on GB News. I'm just reading the NHS's guidance of how to become a Muslim, which is slightly blowing my mind in all sorts of different directions. We're going to talk about that tomorrow on the show.
More about that tomorrow. And, of course, Prime Minister's Questions is coming up. And,
yeah.
Of course, I think the issue that will dominate will be not what the current Prime Minister thinks about net zero, but what the previous Prime Minister, but 1 or 2, Tony Blair, because, of course, he says it's doomed, it's expensive, unrealistic, and putting an unbearable financial... families having to make an unbearable financial sacrifice for no purpose.
So Tony Blair has handed Kemi Badenoch a stick with which to beat Sir Keir Starmer
And here it is.
On the day before the local
So we're handing over to you right now.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday evening, Royal Air Force Typhoons successfully conducted strikes against Houthi military targets in Yemen in a joint operation with our US allies. This action was in line with long-standing policy of the UK government to defend freedom of navigation in the Red Sea after Houthi attacks fuel regional instability and risk economic security for families in the UK. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to say that all UK aircraft and personnel returned safely, and I pay tribute to the professionalism and bravery of all our servicemen and servicewomen. The Defence Secretary, Mr. Speaker, is making a statement immediately after PMQs. Mr. Speaker, can I congratulate Prime Minister Mark Carney on his election in Canada? Our two countries are the closest of Commonwealth allies, partners and friends, and we will work together to deepen our economic relationship to benefit working people here in the UK. Mr. Speaker, may I also congratulate everyone across the House, including members of this House and the Press Gallery, who ran marathons in London and Manchester. In particular, the Honourable Member for Gordon and Buchan for the fastest run of any female MP. And of course the Shadow Justice Secretary, who I'm reliably informed is still running. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Clive Jones.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to associate myself with the remarks of the Prime Minister about the professionalism of our armed forces, and also congratulate Mark Carney on being elected as Prime Minister of Canada. And also everybody who took part in the London Marathon. Both my daughters have done it. It's something I can't do anymore, sadly. Later today, Mr. Speaker, I'm introducing a bill to guarantee Parliament has the final say on any trade deal, including any agreement with President Trump. This isn't new. It's exactly what Labour promised to do in an official policy paper put forward in 2001. I'm asking this government to keep its promise. Currently, members of Parliament have no vote. They have no voice on trade deals. So, will the Prime Minister...
Order. I think the Honourable... What this is good. I think you're on a marathon yourself. I think the Prime Minister may have got a bit. Prime Minister!
Mr. Speaker, can we extend our congratulations to his daughters for running the marathon? In relation to trade deals, the government retains the right, obviously, to strike trade deals, delivering growth, jobs and opportunities for working people. We clearly set that out in our manifesto. That's exactly what we're doing. Parliament, as he knows, does have a well-established role in scrutinising and ratifying these deals. He knows that was strengthened under the last Labour government, as he references.
Dan Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's going to have to be a coming together of Reform and the Conservative Party in some way. A deal, a pact, or a merger. These aren't my words, Mr. Speaker, but those of the most senior Tory in elected public office in the country, the Mayor of the Tees Valley. So if senior Tories are plotting it, the Leader of the Opposition won't deny it, doesn't that mean that the only way for us to stop this plot is to vote Labour?
No need to answer you, no responsibility for any part. Right, let's move the Leader of the Opposition. Can we move it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Monday, the Prime Minister's Safeguarding Minister admitted on the floor of the House that there was a cover-up of the child rape gang scandal. Does the Prime Minister think we should expose this cover-up?
Mr. Speaker, this is obviously a serious issue. I oversaw the first grooming gang prosecution, which was in Rochdale more than a decade ago. There is a contrast here because the Leader of the Opposition, when she was Minister for Children, Women and Equalities, never raised this issue in the House in 3 years. Mr. Speaker, the Shadow Home Secretary held 352 external meetings during 20 months. How many were on this issue? Not one. And they failed, of course, to implement a single recommendation for the independent inquiry into child sex abuse. Mr. Speaker, my position is absolutely clear. Where there's evidence, the police should investigate and there should be appropriate prosecutions. That's route number one. Route number two, we should implement existing recommendations, which did expose what went wrong. They weren't, those recommendations were not implemented by the last government. They're being implemented by this government. We are providing for local inquiries. We're investing more on delivering truth and justice for victims than the party opposite did in 14 long years.
Mr. Speaker, in the last year of Conservative government, we had a gangs task force that found 500 perpetrators, protecting thousands of victims. We launched that inquiry that he's talking about, but more still needs to be done. It's now 4 months since I asked him for a full national inquiry. Instead, he promised 5 local inquiries. There will be one in Oldham. Will he now name where the other 4 inquiries will be?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are providing for local inquiries. This is a serious... Well, they've got so much to say now. Why did they not... Mr. Speaker, why did they not implement a single recommendation in the 14 years they had in office? We're taking forward those. There are recommendations already in place about the change that needs to be taken. They sat on a shelf under the last government. We are acting on them. We are providing for local inquiries, and we're investing more in delivering truth than they ever did.
He cannot name a single place because nothing is happening. He stood there at the dispatch box, promised 5 local inquiries. Nothing is happening. On the last day of term, he had his minister come out to water down the promise to say they would provide funding. That is not good enough. At least 50 towns are affected by rape gangs. Places like Peterborough, Derby, Birmingham, Nottingham, Leicester, Rotherham, Rochdale and Preston. Is he dragging his heels on this because he doesn't want Labour cover-ups exposed?
Mr. Speaker, I spent 5 years prosecuting this case. Mr. Speaker, I was the prosecutor that brought the first case. And when that file was brought to my attention, Mr. Speaker, I noticed that one of the defendants had not been prosecuted previously. Far from covering up, I asked for that file so that I could have a look at it. On the back of that, I then changed the entire approach to prosecutions, which was then lauded by the government. We were doing the right thing and brought those prosecutions. So my record was going after where I thought something had gone wrong and putting it right. She stayed silent throughout their years in government, and so did the entire front bench.
Mr. Speaker, he's not the Director of Public Prosecutions anymore. He is the Prime Minister. People want to know what he is going to do now, not talk about what he did years ago. We are asking for a full national inquiry. Andy Burnham wants a national inquiry. He's not Conservative, he's Labour. Harriet Harman wants one. The member for Rotherham wants one. All of the victims I have met want a full national inquiry. He keeps talking about local inquiries, yet they have not got going. And they haven't got going because local authorities don't want to investigate themselves. Local inquiries cannot force witnesses to appear. Local inquiries can't force people to give evidence under oath. So why won't he have a national inquiry?
Mr. Speaker, we've had a national inquiry. We've had recommendations. There are hundreds of recommendations that have been made in relation to this issue. It is a serious issue. I strongly believe that we should implement the recommendations that have already been made. And that is what we are doing. I strongly believe we should listen to victims, and we've been listening to victims on this side for decades and working with victims for decades in relation to what they want, which is local inquiries, and we've set those local inquiries up.
Mr. Speaker, he says we should listen to victims. The victims want a national inquiry. We haven't had a national inquiry. We had the child sex abuse inquiry, which Conservatives launched. There is still more to be done. It didn't cover this scandal in detail. In Manchester, just last year, authorities were still covering up abuse. The local inquiry chair there has quit. Bradford Council, an area of some of the worst abuses, refuses any inquiry, local or national. Whether it's the streets of Birmingham or the Town Hall of Bradford, it is chaos and cover-ups with Labour councils. When will he show leadership and do the right thing?
The right thing is to implement the recommendations that we've got, which is what they palpably failed to do in government. The right thing to do is to have the national inquiries that we need, which was what the victims want. The right thing to do is to invest in our criminal justice system so we can bring people to justice. They've absolutely collapsed the criminal justice system. Prosecutions for rape under their watch, they go up or down. They went down to record lows. Investment in prosecuting these cases went down. Their record was abysmal. They should hang their heads in shame.
Mr. Speaker, this is just distraction tactics. He hasn't read the recommendations, because if he had read the recommendations, he would know none of them would tackle this issue. The fact is, if I was standing where he is, we would have had a national inquiry months ago. This issue is personal for me. I have met many of the victims. This is about the protection of children. Nothing else is more important. In the last few days, Mr. Speaker, I've been to Wiltshire, Lincolnshire, Northumberland, Kent. All of them have outstanding children's social care. Do you know why, Mr. Speaker? Because they're all run by Conservatives. That's the difference that Conservative councillors make. Isn't the choice tomorrow between chaos and cover-ups under Labour councils or better services under the Conservatives?
She says they'd have a national inquiry. 14 years. 14 years and they didn't do it. It's so hollow. And yes, tomorrow is the first opportunity the country has to pass their verdict on the leader of the opposition and the party opposite after the general. Have they changed? Have they learned? It's passing verdict on the leader of the opposition. We'll see her next week.
Right.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish that the Leader of the Opposition would stop weaponising victims of child sexual points. It's damaging victims, and if she cared about child protection, she wouldn't be doing that. It's a disgrace. You're a disgrace. Mr. Speaker, new data shows that in March last year in Hyson Green and Arboretum ward in my constituency, 64% of children were in poverty, the highest proportion in the whole of the East Midlands, and a damning indictment of the previous Conservative government. One of the proudest achievements of the last Labour government was the action it took on child poverty. Can the Prime Minister confirm that this Labour government will do everything in its power to eliminate child poverty, and that its task force has not ruled out abolishing the two-child benefit limit, the single most cost-effective way to pull children out of poverty?
Minister. Well, she's absolutely right to raise the disgraceful record of the previous government, which saw an extra 900,000 children in poverty. I'm proud of Labour's record in reducing child poverty, which is what we do in government, and the task force is exploring every lever to reduce child poverty.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Edward Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And on behalf of my party, can I send our congratulations to Mark Carney and the Liberal Party of Canada on their historic victory. We wish them well as Canada continues to stand up strongly to President Trump's tariffs and threats. Mr. Speaker, Canada has learned what happens when you do a trade deal with President Trump. He can't be trusted to stick with it. The Prime Minister didn't answer my question last week, and he didn't answer my honourable friend, the member for Wokingham, just now. So let me ask again. Will the government give members of this House a vote on the floor of this House on any deal he agrees with President Trump? Yes or no?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are in negotiations with the US in relation to a deal. We will act, obviously, in the national interest to make sure that if there is a deal, it's the right deal for our country. If it is secured, it'll go through the known procedures for this House.
Sir David.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very disappointed in that reply. There was no yes or no response. We do want a vote, and we will keep pressing him and his government on that. But turning to a domestic issue now, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend, the member for Dorking and Hawley, has taken up the cause of Fiona Lascaris, whose autistic adult son, Christopher, was horrifically exploited and then murdered by a convicted criminal. As ITV News has reported, when Fiona tried to get a mental capacity assessment for her son, she was dismissed. So Christopher never got the support that might have saved his life. We're going to try to change the law so families' concerns over a loved one's mental capacity have to be considered. Will the Prime Minister give his personal backing to that change to stop another tragedy like Christopher's?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him for raising that terrible case, and I think the thoughts of the whole House will be with Christopher's family and friends affected by this, and we'll certainly look into what else we can do, and if there's further details that can be given to me of the particular case, I'll make sure that we follow it up.
Jenka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to start by congratulating Truro City Football Club, who've gone from homelessness to league champions in one season. In Cornwall, clean energy is a huge opportunity. We're fortunate to have vast natural resources, onshore, offshore winds, geothermal and tidal. We have a strategically vital port and a workforce ready to step up. I welcome that Falmouth Community Hospital will be getting new solar panels and benefiting from those first investments made by GB Energy. As we pursue our Clean Power Plan, will the Prime Minister confirm this is just the beginning of that investment in renewables in Cornwall?
Can I add my congratulations to Truro? Clean energy investments are powering our plan for change, Mr. Speaker, and that's just the beginning. We'll go further. 200 schools and hundreds of NHS sites across the country will benefit from GB Energy's first solar projects, including Falmouth Community Hospital in my honourable friend's constituency. Hospitals will save, Mr. Speaker, £45,000 a year off their energy bills, with that money going back to the frontline services. That's the better future we're building, good for patients, good for jobs growth and our energy security.
Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To date, so far this year, 10,000 young, undocumented males have illegally crossed the English Channel into our country, a 40% increase on this time last year, many coming from cultures that are somewhat alien to ours. They are being housed at a cost of many billions of pounds a year in hotels and increasingly in private rented homes. The effect on communities is one of a sense of deep unfairness, actually bordering on resentment. In Runcorn alone, there are 750 of these young men. Just in Runcorn. Is it not time to admit that Smash the Gangs was nothing more than an election slogan and not a policy? And isn't it time to declare a national emergency and to act accordingly?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are passing a borders bill with extensive powers to smash the gangs. These are terrorist-like powers that give powers to the police to intercept where they think the suspects are committing people smuggling, which is a vile trade. We must take back control of our borders after the last government lost control. But what did he and his party do? Did they support those extra measures to actually smash the gangs? No, they went in the lobby with this lot in their new coalition to vote against them. And let's be clear what a vote for his party means. It means a vote to charge for the NHS. It means a pro-Putin foreign policy and a vote against workers' rights. And now we hear, Mr. Speaker, he's recruited Liz Truss as his new top advisor. As he was cheering on the mini-budget.
George Silence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For years, my constituents in Orrell have suffered from a lack of local health provision, but next month that will begin to change thanks to a new partnership that I built with our local NHS, Wigan Athletic and Wigan Warriors at a Centre for Excellence in Women's Sport. This will be a shining example of shifting healthcare from hospitals into communities. So can I urge the Prime Minister to continue with our plan for change and ignore the member for Clacton who, for decades, has pushed to dismantle our NHS so that my constituents must pay to see their doctor.
I see the member for Clacton complaining, but what did he say? He said we're going to have to move to an insurance-based system of healthcare. His words. If you can afford it, you pay. Not under our watch, Mr. Speaker. While he's busy taking Liz Truss's advice and fawning over Putin, we're driving down waiting lists, 3 million extra appointments delivered, and waiting lists slashed in the most deprived areas. That's 6 times the waiting list will come down, including during the winter periods. We're rebuilding our NHS, rebuilding our country of future, and delivering for working people.
Liz Jarvis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just before Christmas, thousands of my constituents in Eastleigh were left without water after yet another incident involving Southern Water, the latest in a long series of issues, including outages and sewage dumping in our precious chalk stream, the River Itchen. Yet this month, my constituents face water bill hikes of 47%. Does the Prime Minister understand why my constituents are so angry about this? And what reassurances can he give my constituents that Southern Water and Ofwat will be held to account?
Prime Minister.
I thank her for raising this, and the party opposite should apologise to her constituents for allowing record sewage into our waterways. Our Water Act will clean up our rivers, lakes and seas. Under new powers which came into effect last week, in fact, water bosses can now face years in jail for concealing sewage spills. We've banned the payment of bonuses and introduced new powers, and of course we're delivering a major review through our Water Commission, and I'll reassure the member we won't hesitate to take further steps.
Sam Coley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Listening to residents in North West Cambridgeshire on the doorstep and in local coffee mornings, there's a clear message. People want local police that have the time and resources to get to know crime in their areas and tackle it at the root. And I know our Labour mayoral candidate's committed to that if she's elected tomorrow. So could the Prime Minister update residents across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough on how our plan for change is tackling crime and antisocial behaviour and boosting police ranks by 13,000 officers that will be visible in all local communities?
The party opposite decimated neighbourhood police, and crimes like shoplifting and antisocial behaviour ran rife. I can tell him what we're doing through the plan for change: extra police officers, extra PCSOs and more special constables. On top of that, Mr. Speaker, a named officer for every community and more teams out in our town centres on Friday and Saturday nights. That's what you get with a Labour mayor working with a Labour government to deliver change for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough.
Josh Babrin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Eastbourne War veteran Staff Sergeant Pauline Cole is a veteran who sustained injuries while serving our country. She was awarded military compensation. But because military compensation is currently considered income by this government, her pension credit has been cut from £77 a week to just £11 a week. We've met with the relevant minister to try to address this to no avail. So I want to ask the Prime Minister, with the anniversary, the 80th anniversary of VE Day just next week, will he meet with Pauline, who's in the gallery, and I to address this injustice and to ensure that no veteran is penalised for serving our country?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for raising this important issue with us? We will always stand up for those who served our country. I paid tribute to Pauline for her service, and I will make sure that she gets the appropriate meeting that she wants and needs to discuss her specific case.
Julie Mims.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, thanks to this Labour government, hundreds of free breakfast clubs have opened across our country. Will the Prime Minister join me in sending good wishes to the staff and pupils at Castle Carrick, Udale, Longtown, Inglewood, Brook Street, Blackford, Hallbank Gate and Bishop Harvey Goodwin schools in my constituency, which are among the first to benefit from this important scheme? And can he confirm that this is just the start of Labour's plan for change to deliver for working parents?
Let me pay tribute to all the staff in her constituency who are working in the breakfast clubs, which of course, Mr. Speaker, deliver free breakfast clubs, 30 minutes of free childcare, saving working parents £450 a year, and we've opened the first 750 across the country. There'll be many more to come, Mr. Speaker. We are of course also saving parents £50 a year by making school uniforms cheaper, something the Leader of the Opposition ordered all her troops to vote against.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The playing of music and loud videos on public transport without headphones is becoming increasingly common. The various bylaws outlawing such antisocial behaviour are clearly not working, whilst planned cuts to the British Transport Police are bound to make matters worse. Will the Prime Minister back the Lib Dem plan to introduce effective enforcement and a publicity campaign to persuade people to plug in their headphones? After which, you never know, perhaps we can encourage the uncivil minority to take their feet off the seats.
Prime Minister. Well, he raises a really important question of antisocial behaviour. They're laughing about it. That really sums up what they did in the last 14 years. He knows there are already strict rules in place to prevent antisocial behaviour, including fines of up to £1,000, but we are focused on tackling antisocial behaviour. It's not low level. It does affect people and their communities and their sense of safety and what they can do with their own lives. And that's why an additional £1.2 billion has been set aside for policing, 13,000 new neighbourhood police officers, new respect orders, and a named officer in every community. We take this seriously. They laugh about it.
Bill Ribeiro Addy.
Mr. Speaker, rent in my constituency is becoming exceedingly unaffordable, with the ONS's most recent data estimating that the average price of rents have risen by over 10% in the last year, whilst average wages haven't risen at the same level. And I know several metro mayors are calling for the power to control rents in their region to help tackle the issue, and the steps in the Renters' Rights Bill to cap market rents at the market rate are positive. But as landlords are the ones setting the market rates, renters in my constituency are fearful that this won't be enough to protect them from rising rents. So can the Prime Minister tell me what steps this government is taking to bring down rental prices?
Prime Minister. She's absolutely right to raise this important issue. Communities across the country are facing the consequences of the utter failure of the party opposite to build enough homes. Our Renters' Right Bill improves the system for 11 million private renters, blocking demands for multiple months of rent in advance, and finally abolishing no-fault evictions, something they said they'd do over and over again, and as usual, never got round to doing. Mr. Speaker, that's backed up by major planning reforms, our New Homes Accelerator, and £600 million to deliver 300,000 homes in London, part of our 1.5 million homes we'll build across the country that are desperately needed.
Sir Bernard.
Does the Prime Minister recall from our history that even during the Blitz, the concert pianist Dame Maura Hess continued performing her piano recitals at the National Gallery, including the performance of German music like J.S. Bach's Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring? As a trustee of the Parliament Choir and as a singer, can I ask him to lend his support to Parliament's own VE Day celebration, which will be next Wednesday evening in Westminster Hall, when we will perform in the presence of His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent and both speakers of both houses, not only that Bach chorale, but the music of our other allies, and of course some British music too. Tickets are still available.
Prime Minister. Can I wish him the very best of luck? It will be a fantastic event, and it's just one of the many important celebrations that that are taking place to commemorate VE Day. I would encourage the whole House to buy those remaining tickets to go along and attend the concert, which I think is in Westminster Hall, as well as the many street parties and other events that will be across the country. And I look forward to paying my own tributes on VE Day, but I wish him luck.
Sarah Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the action taken by the government to fix our NHS and deliver 2 million more appointments, something my constituents are already benefiting from. Together with Warrington and Halton NHS Trust, I recently submitted a ready-to-go proposal for a new urgent treatment centre and outpatients facility in Warrington. Warrington has over 200,000 residents and no urgent treatment centre. The proposal would reduce A&E waiting times and deliver 100,000 appointments every year. Will the Prime Minister or Health Secretary agree to meet with me and local health partners to discuss this transformational project?
Prime Minister. Well, I'm happy to make sure that my honourable friend meets the Health Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we have got waiting lists down for 6 months now in a row, delivering 3 million extra appointments. The Further Faster 20 programme is doubling the rate at which waiting lists are falling, including in her trust. And of course, earlier this week we froze prescription charges at under £10. There's a lot that's been done, a lot more to do, but our plan for change is working, getting the NHS back on its feet.
Mr. Speaker.
The non-disclosure agreement was entirely one-sided, gagging me, but not the men or the execs involved. It covered not just business matters, but everything painful I'd endured. I ended up in hospital. These are the words of a victim who suffered intolerable sexual misconduct in her workplace. Does the Prime Minister agree with me and members across this House that the misuse of NDAs in cases like this are totally unacceptable? And if so, will he help us in amending the Employment Rights Bill going through the Lords now to stop this pervasive practice once and for all?
Prime Minister. She's right to highlight the misuse of NDAs, and I don't think anybody would countenance the misuse of NDAs, particularly in a case as serious as the one that she cited, which is why we're looking whatever we can do to make sure they're not misused.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After 14 years of a Conservative government who let fly tipping increase to record levels across the country, my constituents in Ealing Southall will welcome the Prime Minister's announcement today that fly tippers will now face tough action, new technology for enforcement and up to 5 years in prison. Set out what other steps he is taking to help councils tackle fly tipping and the difference this will make to communities like Ealing Southall.
Thank you for raising this issue. Under the last government, we saw 1 million incidents of fly tipping. Under Conservative councils, we see enforcement down and fly tipping up. Look at Tory-led Northumberland, where incidents of fly tipping are up 76%. We're introducing, Mr. Speaker, tough powers to seize and crush the vehicles of commercial fly tippers who now face up to 5 years in prison for operating illegally. That's a Labour government clearing up the mess left by the party opposite.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, a week tomorrow, the whole nation will come together to commemorate the E-Day. Those who fought in World War II, including my own father, would often attest that no one did more to maintain their morale in adversity than Dame Vera Lynn, the force's sweetheart. A doughty band of campaigners for several years have been trying to create a national memorial in her honour. I'm pleased to tell the House they now have a stunning design. They have a site, appropriately at Dover, and they've already raised over 3/4 of the funding that they would need. So at this very special time, would the Prime Minister lend his support in principle to this noble endeavour? Would he be prepared to accept a personal briefing on the campaign, in which case I suspect that he and I will meet again?
Always a pleasure. But look, I'm going to congratulate him on his campaign. It is really important, and many people were delighted, I think, to join that campaign. Dame Vera is sewn into our nation's soul, providing the soundtrack for our greatest generation, and so it's particularly timely. So I'll support the campaign that he has done so much to promote.
Adam Thompson. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whether it is the crevasse on the island outside of Asda in Long Eaton or the array of tyre poppers on Quarry Hill Road in Ilkeston, every day my inbox is filled with complaints about potholes that Conservative Derbyshire County Council has failed to fix. Given that the government has poured £1.6 billion of extra funding into road repairs and that tomorrow is the Derbyshire County Council elections, does the Prime Minister agree with me that it is high time that Erewash and the wider Derbyshire got itself a Labour council that will actually repair the roads?
He's absolutely right. Conservative Derbyshire County Council is home to more potholes than anywhere else in the country, and drivers are paying the price. Mr. Speaker, our plan for change has committed enough funding to fix 7 million extra potholes this year, and for the first time, councils like Derbyshire must publish how many potholes they've actually repaired in order to get the cash. The party opposite left Britain's roads crumbling. We are fixing them.
Samir Wilson. Mr. Speaker, the blackouts in Spain, which have caused chaos, the realisation amongst many backbenchers in his own party that thousands of jobs are being lost in Scotland in the oil industry, and the fact that businesses are facing energy costs which are making them uncompetitive and consumers being plunged into poverty, fuel poverty. Does he not recognise that his net zero policy is not only bad, but it's mad? And indeed, his own former leader is now accepting this. Will he not accept the advice from someone within his own party if he won't accept advice from this side of the House?
Prime Minister.
Well, many years on the opposite benches, I learned when asking questions at PMQs not just to read the headline on a Wednesday morning, but to look at some of the detail. What Tony Blair said is we should have more carbon capture. We've invested in carbon capture. That's many jobs across different parts of the country. He said that AI should be used. We agree with that. We've invested huge amounts in AI on the jobs of the future. He also said we need domestic targets so that businesses have their certainty. If you look at the detail of what Tony Blair said, he's absolutely aligned with what we're doing here. The jobs and the security of the future. I would also say that we shouldn't weaponise the difficult position that people in Spain and other countries find themselves in at a very difficult time.
Final question, Alex Bellinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the government's decision this month to secure British steel, and at a time when European security is critical, its defence manufacturers in the Black Country, like Summers Forge in Hell's-Erin and BB Price in Cradley Heath, they'll be using that steel to make the military equipment that our defence needs. Will the Prime Minister commit to make manufacturing investment in the Black Country a national priority so that we can live up to our industrial heritage and create the high-quality defence jobs that our region so desperately needs?
I'd like to pay tribute to my honourable and gallant friend for his service to his country. He understands our national security and economic security go hand in hand. Mr. Speaker, it's vital that defence investment creates more jobs, apprenticeships and opportunities in the Black Country and across the United Kingdom. That's why we've launched a new hub to give up to 12,000 small firms better access to defence contracts. And of course, we're raising defence spending, the highest sustained increase since the Cold War, something the party opposite failed to do in 14 years in office.
Right, we'll let the front bench change over.
The last Prime Minister's questions before millions of you have the opportunity to vote in local and one by-election tomorrow. Christopher Hope, our political editor, has been watching Prime Minister's Question Time. He's in the chamber, watching from a balcony right inside there. So I want to ask Chris what his main 3 takeaways from today were.
Yeah, hi Gloria, hi Tom from outside the House of Parliament. I thought that was another good showing there by Kemi Badenoch. These things matter a lot to Tory MPs, particularly going to the local elections tomorrow and of course the by-election too, and that's why getting the morale up and being competent to challenge and ask difficult questions of the Prime Minister matters so much. She went on 6 questions on the grooming gangs, the rape gangs scandal we've done so much to expose through reporting on GBNews of Charlie Peters. 3 times I counted the PM was asked to order a national inquiry. 3 times he wouldn't answer. Instead, Kemi Badenoch said, you want to have these local inquiries. We know about Oldham. Where the other 4 you'd say you'd have. Again, he wouldn't say where they were. Instead, he said, and perhaps correctly, what did the Tories do in 14 years in power? He said that the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, I think, had 350 or so meetings, external meetings during his time in the Home Office, not one about the issue of the grooming gangs. A fair point, well made by the Prime Minister, but frankly, it's all about now and doing right by these victims. And you heard Kemi Badenoch there quote Harriet Harman and quote Andy Burnham, again, not MPs, but senior figures in the Labour Party, asking why there can't be a national inquiry. We know the victims want it, and the answers from the Prime Minister, I think, avoided the answer to those questions, and that'll be noted by many people watching PMQs and listening in on GB News. 2 other big issues there, and important ones. We heard another question from Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK. 10,000 undocumented males, he said, arriving so far this year across our southern border with France by small boat, creating unfairness, he said, resentment in some communities. The PM hit back, it was knockabout. He said, you're taking advice from Liz Truss. You'd have a Putin-friendly foreign policy were Reform to form the next government, but not really the answer to the key question. The PM did say, of course, we will smash the gangs. There's a border bill going through, and made the fair point, of course, that Reform UK, with the Tories voted against that, which, of course,
course, is what you do in politics when you're opposing the government, but not really saying how it can go further than the plans already out there. And just finally, from Sir Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, fascinating to get ahead of this idea of this trade agreement with the US, asking yes or no, will there be a vote of MPs on this trade deal? The PM did not give a straight answer, and that issue, I think, will come to the fore in coming weeks.
Interesting stuff there, Christopher Hope. Thanks for being on a very sunny college green for us, right outside Parliament. Well, we're going to turn into our studio now. Joining us for the programme is the Labour MP James Frith and the Conservative MP Neil Shastri Hurst. James, we're going to start with you. This issue of grooming gangs, of course, a big issue. Peter's got in touch to say, I can't recall Starmer or the Labour Party even raising the child grooming issue when they were in opposition.
Well, look, as Christopher Chope has just given in his excellent summary of PMQs, this is about what is happening now. And the Prime Minister, building on his record as the first prosecutor of the original grooming gangs cover-up over a decade ago in Rochdale, has a stronger record than Kemi Badenoch in actually tackling this. We went into this last general election with a commitment to halving violence against women and girls and a deep commitment to ensuring that perpetrators of child sexual abuse are punished and punished severely. There is no cap on the inquiries that local authorities can have. And Baroness Louise Casey is conducting a national audit on the review that we are the recommendations of which we are implementing.
The concern that some of the victims of this scandal have is that if a local authority has been complicit in covering up a particular problem in their local authority, why would they voluntarily volunteer to have an inquiry into themselves? Isn't this opt-in model somewhat flawed in that you're never going to find the people that don't want to be inquisitive?
I think your viewers are absolutely right to be concerned by that. It's why it's being made a criminal offence to conceal child sexual abuse, along with this duty of candour that's required as part of new laws being brought in by this government. Where there have been cover-ups, then they should feel the full force of the law. It is truly abhorrent to think that anybody in public office or local authority officer level would conceal child sexual abuse. I would support the most punitive of measures to ensure that people working in local authorities, if discovered as having concealed child sexual abuse, face the full force of the new law.
Neil Shastri Hurst from the Conservatives. Your first time on the programme. You are very welcome.
Thank you very much.
We're going to stick with that subject. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister's response was that the Tories did nothing about rape gangs. Kay, one of our viewers or listeners, has made the same point. Now, she says it doesn't make it OK for Labour to copy them, but isn't it problematic?
Look, I think Kemi's been leading on this. It's been an issue that she's raised on a number of occasions, and she's holding the government to account. That's our job as the opposition. And I have to say, I thought the Prime Minister was out of step with not only the country, but his own party today. We've heard Andy Burnham has spoken out about this, Harriet Harman has spoken out about this. And the problem with the local inquiries is they're not going to get into the detail of it. They don't have that statutory element that will compel people to give evidence. So we can have as many local inquiries as you want, although the Prime Minister has only named one location so far. What we don't have is a proper joined-up inquiry that looks at this in the whole as opposed to in a piecemeal fashion, so that we can ensure that we're preventing this happening in the future.
The suggestion is, or the allegation that the government make, is that when you were in power, you commissioned this big inquiry. Alexis Jay carried it out. It was an independent inquiry into what was going on in Rochdale. Loads of recommendations. The allegation from the government, from Labour, is that report, nothing happened. It just sat on the shelf gathering dust.
I think we've got to look at what that report was investigating. It was a much wider report, the child sex abuse inquiry. This would be a much more specific report around grooming gangs. Yes, look, could we have moved faster? I don't disagree with that. But the government have a choice here, and what we saw from the Prime Minister today was obfuscation. He wasn't going to make a commitment about those future inquiries, where they were going to take place, and most importantly, he wasn't going to make a commitment that these would be statutory national inquiries.
Now, of course, there was a lot else covered in Prime Minister's questions, and one issue that was reflected in our comments was this issue of net zero. Of course, we heard from Sammy Wilson of the DUP right at the end there, but someone's got in touch to ask for reaction to Tony Blair's comments on that net zero approach, that the current approach that the UK and many European countries is taking is, in his words, doomed to fail.
Well, I give congratulations to the marketing department of the Tony Blair Institute, who's managed to time it brilliantly to get maximum coverage. As the Prime Minister said, if you look beyond the headline, the detail is in synergy with the government's commitments to this. What we have done is raise private investment. We have issued carbon capture schemes. We are adopting AI. We believe in targets. But look, your viewers will continue to be experiencing rising bills. They will also appreciate that the opportunity for jobs, as well as the need for energy security, are the reason why this government is handling its energy strategy so as a priority. Energy costs have exploded since the invasion of Ukraine by Putin, something that Reform would do nothing about because they've got a leader who fawns over Putin. But I
think Nigel Farage would reject that claim.
I think he said he admires him in history, as well as his comments about the national insurance model for a private insurance model for the NHS. You know, if people are paying more attention to leaders of political parties, they also expect to have more scrutiny of those leaders of parties. And just on the energy point that you raise, we have got to get better energy security in this country, and so that requires an energy mix, a source of energy mix, which is about adoption of renewable energy, of onshore and offshore. It's also ensuring
there is a risk of too much renewable, isn't there, as Spain has seemingly discovered?
If it over-reliance of it, of course, and you have to have that mix. And until there is a defined reliance or a tested reliance, then of course you wouldn't want to move. As with everything in politics, it's about balance. But this government is committed to driving bills down over time, ensuring the jobs that exist in the renewable sector come to Britain, and energy security, so we're not at the behest of Russia and its grip on security.
We're going to talk more about that, and of course our Conservative representative will have his say too. But we're going to take a short break. But we've got lots more of your questions. They're all going to be put to our political panel, who is the Labour MP for Bury North, James Frith, and the Conservative MP for Solihull West and Shirley, Neil Shastry-Hurst.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another sunny one today and it's very warm. Temperatures have been building day by day. They peak tomorrow. Odd shower in the far north, but otherwise for the vast majority it is dry, it is sunny because of this area of high pressure that's keeping things settled at the moment. And with the strong sunshine that we've got at this time of year, temperatures have been building and we're going to see those temperatures continue to rise through the rest of the day today. Patchy cloud across the north of Scotland and always the chance that the heat could set off the odd shower for Northern Ireland and Northern Scotland. Otherwise it's simply blue skies and temperatures a couple of degrees up on Tuesday, 27 or 28 Celsius in the south, low 20s further north. Now, through the evening, we keep the warm, sunny spells, and apart from one or two showers across northern Scotland, the vast majority will end the day dry and pleasant. Northern Ireland, likewise, some patchy cloud here and there, chance of a shower, but otherwise, for the vast majority, it's dry. Temperatures of 21 Celsius. Mid-20s still at 6 or 7 p.m. Remarkable temperatures given that it's still April. And then as we go overnight into the start of May, it is a very warm night in places, not everywhere. Very variable temperatures across the country. Some sheltered spots of central England, for example, seeing lows of 2 or 3 Celsius, but other areas seeing lows into the mid-teens, particularly urban areas and coastal spots. So warm night for some and a different night for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, with an area of clouds sinking south and some showery rain associated with this. This is going to introduce much cooler air from the north over the next few days, but it's another very warm, Or you might even call it a hot day in the south, with temperatures reaching 29 Celsius fairly widely from London through to Bristol.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A92 northbound at Lochgelly faces restrictions due to a broken down vehicle. In North Yorkshire, the A19 southbound is disrupted between the A684 and A61 junctions due to a collision. One lane is closed, but conditions are expected to normalise soon. Nottinghamshire drivers on the M1 northbound near junctions 25 and 26 may experience congestion, causing 30-minute delays. In Hampshire, the A303 eastbound between the A343 and A357 junctions has one lane closed following an accident, leading to slight delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. We have still got the Labour MP for Bury North, James Frith, in the studio with the Conservative MP for Solihull West and Shirley Neal Shastry Hurst. And we were talking about net zero just before the break, and I just wanted to put to our Labour guest, James Frith, a quote from that Tony Blair report, that people feel they're being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes in lifestyle when they know the impact on global emissions is minimal. That's the problem, isn't it? He says, yes, absolutely, we got to deal with the climate crisis, but the messaging, the strategy is doomed to fail, his words.
Well, I don't think it's doomed to fail. I respect, of course, Labour's most successful leader. I think that the emotion that he's tapping into is not wrong, and the job of the government has got to explain the challenge and the reasons behind the work it's doing on both net zero and with the energy strategy. But as I gave my first answer, this is motivated by a want to bring bills down. But on the other side of things, with our changes to making work pay and to ensuring that people get better paid, minimum wage going up will have affected millions of people. Our hope is that over time, the energy net zero quest, if you like, will bring bills down, will improve energy security and, of course, create the renewable jobs, the well-skilled work that is the opportunity here.
Just turning to you, Neil, on this. Kemi Badenoch gave a big speech several weeks ago saying that net zero by 2050 is impossible. But the Conservative Party is still committed to net zero. It just doesn't say by when. Is your messaging on this not rather confused?
I don't think it's incoherent at all. I think it's actually very pragmatic. Look, we all know we've got to deal with climate change. That's an obvious thing. But both James and I will know from our inboxes from constituents, what they write to us a huge amount of time is about the cost of their energy supply. And Labour came in, they said they were going to cut energy bills by £300. Well, they've gone up by £150. And what today showed, and I take my hat off to James, because it was a valiant defence of the position, but the day before the local elections, an intervention such as this by a former Prime Minister and leader of the Labour Party is deeply embarrassing, because they know that for many of their constituents, this is a major issue. It's about the choice between whether people can put the heating on or not. And so it's about having a pragmatic, sensible policy to this, making sure it works, but it's not penalising people to the extent that it becomes unaffordable.
We just have time for one more issue before the end of the show, and that is the question that Nigel Farage raised today at Prime Minister's Questions.
And Sue. Thank you, Sue.
And Sue, indeed, who reflected what Nigel said, saying, yes, national emergency, smash the gangs. Should there be a state of national emergency called due to the more than 10,000 people who have now crossed the Channel so far this year?
I agree with Sue that we need to remember this is a national priority. But
not an emergency.
Well, it's clearly a form of emergency given the state that we're in, but you cannot have a business, effectively, the business model that has been allowed to build up over 14 years of the Tory open border policy that we saw in that experiment, the disastrous experiment that we've seen. After 10 months, assess the work that has been done to begin to tackle that. Returns are up by 21%.
But crossings are up too.
Well, there will always be a degree of seasonal ups to this, but you cannot compare a record of 10 months to 14 months.
OK, and on that
14
point,
years,
you had 14 years and you left an absolute mess when it comes to the situation with immigration, illegal immigration, arguably legal migration too. But on Sue's point, that this is a national emergency. It is because of what this government inherited from you guys.
Look, Kemi has been very clear about this. We didn't get this right when we were in government, and we need to address it. This is a major issue on the doorsteps up and down the country. I wouldn't use that particular phrase, national emergency. I'm more interested in our outcomes, and it's how we're going to address this problem. Kemi's already set out some of the ways she's going to do that, and we'll have more policy announcements.
Well, thank you to both of our MPs, and thank you at home for watching. I'm next with Good Afternoon Britain. Do stay with us.
See you next week.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's another sunny one today and it's very warm. Temperatures have been building day by day. They peak tomorrow. Odd shower in the far north, but otherwise for the vast majority it is dry, it is sunny because of this area of high pressure that's keeping things settled at the moment. And with the strong sunshine that we've got at this time of year, temperatures have been building and we're going to see those temperatures continue to rise through the rest of the day today. Patchy cloud across the north of Scotland and always the chance that the heat could set off the odd shower for Northern Ireland and Northern Scotland. Otherwise, it's simply blue skies and temperatures a couple of degrees up on Tuesday, 27 or 28 Celsius in the south, low 20s further north. Now, through the evening, we keep the warm, sunny spells, and apart from one or two showers across northern Scotland, the vast majority will end the day dry and pleasant. Northern Ireland, likewise, some patchy cloud here and there, chance of a shower, but otherwise, for the vast majority, it's dry. Temperatures of 21 Celsius. Mid-20s still at 6 or 7 p.m. Remarkable temperatures given that it's still April. And then as we go overnight into the start of May, it is a very warm night in places, not everywhere. Very variable temperatures across the country. Some sheltered spots of central England, for example, seeing lows of 2 or 3 Celsius, but other areas seeing lows into the mid-teens, particularly urban areas and coastal spots. So warm night for some and a different night for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland with an area of clouds sinking south and some showery rain associated with this. This is going to introduce much cooler air from the north over the next few days, but it's another very warm, or you might even call it a hot day in the south with temperatures reaching 29 Celsius fairly widely from London through to Bristol.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
It is cruel because I think children are only your children for 16 years, 18 years, right? And then they go and they have to do all this stuff for themselves. I think while they're young, their main priorities should be their education, coming in, doing their homework, getting to bed, getting enough sleep. My children, for example, are 11 and 16, so one's doing his GCSEs, the other still randomly has a ton of homework, even at 11. By the time they've come in and done their homework, they're exhausted and they go to bed. I just don't think it is my job as a parent to tell them to then go and mop the floor or hoover their bedrooms. Their main focus is their education at this age.
Yeah. You made my blood run cold there talking about homework, because I'm not a believer in homework. I think school is where you do work and then you come home, and home is where you can do anything else that you want to do. But I just think it's just all too much.
I think this is a tricky one, because we're not talking about Victorian Britain or sending children up chimneys. We're talking making your bed, tidying your room. I think it's a great help for people to do chores around the house. There's been several studies where they've seen that it's had beneficial well-being for children. And I think it's just about learning about time management, confidence, resilience. These are just basic life skills. So many people these days, teenagers, grow up and they don't have them, and then they're going off to university or whatever. I saw a really funny video actually of a mum who couldn't get her child to clean up, so she got black rice, sprinkled it around the room and told him it was mouse droppings. Now, I don't know if we need to go that far, but I do think it's good for children as a whole.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 30th of April. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
Well, he was cleared of murdering the gangster Chris Cabba, but the Met officer that pulled the trigger could still be sacked.
Well, there is huge anger within policing circles, particularly within armed policing circles, that a man who was tried and acquitted by a jury of his peers should now face more in the way of action against him.
Elsewhere,
there will be one in Oldham. Will he now name where the other 4 inquiries will be?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are providing for local inquiries. This is a serious... Well, they've got so much to say now. Why did they not... Mr. Speaker, why did they not implement a single recommendation in the 14 years they had in office?
yes, Kemi Badenoch asks Sir Keir Starmer whether the local inquiries, where are those other 4 locally led inquiries into grooming gangs? Keir Starmer failed to answer the question.
And I'd rather leave it empty. That's the message to Sir Keir Starmer from some landlords who are being offered 5-year contracts to house those crossing the channel. We'll speak to one landlord who's not best pleased with the policy.
Meanwhile, yesterday, Sir Tony Blair branded the net zero climate push irrational. Today, he insists he supports